Thank you very much, and it's really a great pleasure to share the stage with Commissioner Kubilius and share the Council today that discuss really a key issue of space and its impact on competitiveness of EU. Very well connecting us to yesterday's discussion in Competitiveness Council that focused much more on the internal market. But let me focus on what we discussed today. The background of our discussion was what we can see on a really daily basis: the growing political and geopolitical tension, the more frequent natural disasters, and the need for rapid and coordinated response to crisis situation where space technologies are becoming key element of EU's security and resilience infrastructure. This is the clear need for us to invest and use those assets that we have. At the meeting, and this was a very good beginning, something that was followed on weeks of negotiations and preparations, but the good news, we adopted Council's conclusions highlighting the importance of using data from Earth observation constellations, such as EU's Copernicus program, or national and commercial satellites in civil protection and crisis management effort. In the face of climate change and the increase in extreme weather events, these data are essential for making effective decisions, optimizing rescue efforts, and minimizing economic losses. And there was a very clear agreement across the member states, across the ministers, that this is an opportunity for us to fully use. Linking to the conclusions, space policy ministers also held an exchange of views on the use of space data to strengthen EU's strategic resilience. The discussion touched on the issue of coordination between member states, interoperability of national and European systems, as well as ensuring secure, fast, and reliable access to satellite data. Ministers noted that in the context of growing threats, technologies based on Earth observations are becoming a key tool in responding to crisis situations, protecting critical infrastructure, and ensuring public safety. Again, these are assets that we are likely to use more and more in the coming years. There was also a focus on the economic aspect of space economy, building Europe's resilience and benefiting our technology and industry. At the conclusions of today's discussion, together with the activities of the European Space Agency, will provide an important impetus for the further development of European satellite system. Better Earth imaging will help monitor threats more effectively, respond more quickly to crises, and better protect people and infrastructure. To achieve this, joint planning is needed at EU and member states level, as well as close cooperation in building security and preparedness for the future. That's something that clearly came out from our discussion as well. Today Poland is holding presidency of the Council, and in fact this is the last Council in the Compet format. And we are putting security at the heart of our actions, and this security has a number of dimensions, from external security to economic security that we discussed yesterday, to civilian security that was very much at the heart of today's discussion. And here is where satellite navigation and communication and observation systems are foundation for our resilience and our basis for secure Europe for the decades to come. Let me stop here and happy to answer any questions that you may have. And again, thank you for great cooperation with Commission and especially Commissioner Kubilius.
Well, good evening, and first of all, I would like to thank very much Minister and Polish Presidency for all the job, but especially for this Council, Compete Council, devoted to space. That was my first council as commissioner of this sort of councils, And I welcome really, and I am grateful for very excellent exchange on using space for our security, resilience, and preparedness. And our work in space improves the lives of billions of people worldwide. It helps to combat climate change, helps to save lives in search and rescue operations, and helps to keep Europe safe and secure, especially in those very dangerous times. We need to remember that our Galileo system is the best satellite navigation system in the world. Galileo emergency warning satellite service will greatly boost our resilience. Our Copernicus is the best Earth observation system in the world. The Copernicus emergency management and security services provides critical support to member states in times of crisis. Copernicus also provides crucial data for modeling and forecasting to prevent, to manage, and to recover from crisis. The upcoming IRIS² will also bring Europe back to the connectivity stage. And we will deliver on IRIS². IRIS² will be the best internet connectivity system in the world, bringing seamless, secure internet to every corner of Europe and beyond. And delivery of that system starts with govs.com this year, which will bring secure communications for governments and national authorities from the very beginning. But also we need to reinforce our capacities in Earth observation, governmental services, in positioning, navigation, and timing in connectivity. We also need to reinforce the protection of our systems. First, on development of our European Union Earth observation service, governmental service. Governmental service may include the development operations of new European Union space-based Earth observation satellites. The objective is to complement and avoid duplications with the European Union national and commercial systems and services. The Commission is finalizing 2 feasibility studies performed by European Union industry. And also we will build on what we already have. We will expand our satellite navigation systems in the low Earth orbit. And with LEO PNT, a positioning, navigation, and timing system, which will bring signals that are faster, stronger, and more resistant to jamming and attacks. Access to space is crucial to our future in space. We need innovative solutions to catch up in launching and space transportation systems. And we are working together with European Space Agency exactly in developing ideas in this field. I welcome the constructive discussions among ministers today on using space to increase our resilience, security, and crisis management in the European Union. Using space data in European Union and national systems will bring rapid understanding of impact of crisis, man-made, natural, or war. And space data will support seamless coordination to counter emergencies and disasters. Our European cooperation in space is based on solidarity. No single member state can build satellite networks that protects an entire continent, but together we can. We are working in close cooperation with European Space Agency, and we established a Resilience in Space Task Force in order to deliver a new Earth observation governmental service, which will be another big step forward to go onward and upward in space. And again, I would like to conclude with my gratitude to Polish presidency.
Yeah, Gianluca Martucci, Public Policy, Italian News Agency. Thank you for the floor. My question is about the resilience of data space. Do you think that the cooperation with the US will increase this cooperation? So as you see how do you see the cooperation with the US in this space? Thank you so much.
Who would like to start?
Okay. Well, definitely, we value that cooperation very much. Especially in those space services which are related with security and defense, where we are very heavily dependent on so-called strategic enablers, which Americans are providing for us for security and defense of the European continent. From another side, we understand that United States are looking into longer-term perspective, and we need to look into longer-term perspective when perhaps the United States will shift more and more of their resources important for security and defense to Indo-Pacific region in order to mitigate rising Chinese military power. And that is why we need to be ready to take all the responsibility on European security and defense on our own shoulders, including in building those systems, space systems like Earth observation governmental systems, which exactly would provide us with our autonomous capacities in having intelligence data from space, which are very much needed for our defense.
I'm happy to jump in as well. Just as Commissioner said, Europe is standing on its own 2 feet when it comes to defense, and it's when it comes to space as well. And there was a lot of focus in today's discussion on building European capabilities. That does not exclude, of course, transatlantic cooperation, and Commissioner can speak best to what is happening at the European level. But then, of course, we have bilateral cooperation with the US among various member states. I know Polish cooperation best. We are, in fact, in the beginning of June, sending our first astronaut, Sławosz Uznański, to space on a mission, the international mission launched from the US with an American space company, Axiom. So there is a lot of bilateral cooperation that will continue, even though at the same time as we build also our European, more autonomous capabilities. There is no problem, and in fact, I think it's necessary for us to have some level of duplication with Americans having focused on their systems and Europe being able to have our own Galileo, our own Copernicus, our own Iris Square, that to make sure that no one can turn it off at any moment.
Thank you. Let's go here.
Thank you. Thanks. Kim McCrail from the Wall Street Journal. I apologize. I'm going to ask a question on a different topic.
Can we then maybe see if the other question was actually on the topic of the agenda, and then we come back to you?
Sure.
Thank you very much, Camille Cerise-Gessin from Agence Europe. You say we need to be more autonomous concerning the US, but did you discuss how many euros do we need to be more autonomous, more independent from the US? The French minister this morning, when he arrived to the council, said we need to spend much more in space at the EU level. Did you discuss about that, and what are your expectations from the next MFF? Thank you very much.
I can start, but then I will leave the harder part of the question, of course, to Commissioner. One little, perhaps, pushback in to your question, you said autonomous from the US. I don't think we need to say that we are autonomous from the US or from any other ally. We just need European capabilities that we are responsible for. Clearly, Europe, when we compare ourselves to America, but not only, is not spending enough. There was one presentation today from the head of European Space Agency, Dr. Aschbacher, who pointed that over the last 5 years, the share of European spending on space has declined as others are spending more. So there is a catch-up aspect to it. Clearly, also others are spending more on defense in space. And we've had a healthy debate about this. So I speak on behalf of presidency, so I won't bring the Polish dimension, but it was clear that we have crisis management, but we have also events on our borders that make us focus on defense, on space capabilities that will, with time, also help us with defense. But we didn't go into a detailed conversation of the multi-year financial framework. We leave it to our Danish colleagues to take it up during their presidency.
Commissioner, would you like to add something?
Well, just absolutely agrees and support what Minister have said. definitely both defense and space are very big priorities for us. It's very clear that space is very much, related to defense. And when we are talking now about, big finances coming into defense through safe loans regulation with national escape clause, really, those are very big steps forward. So I hope that partly those finances also will be used for some projects, very important projects related with space services for defense. And I just can remind that among 7 so-called strategic domains, which we defined in white paper, the last of those 7 is so-called strategic enablers. And strategic enablers exactly is very much related with space services for defense, with space intelligence data and so on, what we need to develop. Now, possibilities to use those loans are perhaps from the next week, when there will be a regulation will be finally approved by the Council. So we expect that during next 2 months, member states will notify us about how much they want to take those loans and for what kind of projects. So very soon we shall see. And in parallel, of course, we're working on next MFF, which is very important from structural point of view. It will have, some structural changes. So it's with so-called Competitiveness Fund, which will integrate a lot of existing programs of today. But one thing which we know very well, that just in order to continue exploitation of those space systems which we have now, we shall need to have bigger spending line in next MFF if to compare with today's spending line. Today, for 7 years of this MFF, we have had around of 20 billion euros. So we need to have more just for exploitation, but definitely we see also new programs which we need to start to develop, and one of them is Earth Observation Governmental Service, but also some big challenges for us are related with launching systems, where we need to come back and to really to create our own possibilities. We can call them autonomous possibilities to launch satellites into the space. Also, we are looking into much longer term perspective, because next MFF, we need to remember, will end in 2035. And with a revolution, which I am always saying that I see forthcoming revolution in space, we need to look, how things can develop during next decade, and how for us not to stay very much behind global developments in space.
Thank you so much. Do we have any more questions on space? No? Then we go to Kim.
Thanks very much. You probably know what this is about. So I'd like to take the opportunity with the two of you here to ask about the United States President's threat today to impose 50% tariffs on the EU. Since you, Minister Baranowski, you were just last week chairing a meeting of trade ministers or ministers on trade issues, and you've been working on this topic for a while. Can you share your reaction to that threat today and what you think it might mean for ongoing talks? And Commissioner Kubilius, if you might be able to make any comment on this. I know trade is not your specific area, but as a member of the college, if you might be able to say anything about the threat to impose 50% tariffs on the EU. Thank you.
Minister.
Great to see you, Kim, again. A few points. One is this is, of course, very, very early on to comment on this development. Secondly, look, we knew last week when we met with trade ministers and with Commissioner Šefčovič that it's going to be a dynamic situation. It continues to be a dynamic situation. Maroš Šefčovič continues to have productive engagement with our American partners. Without going into too many details, which I don't want to make public, I'm sure he will be talking with his counterparts in not too distant future, and which I'm sure he will first brief us and then the wider public. we keep talking. The announcement or the post that President Trump has made use the word that he suggests. I don't think there is anything set in stone. Both sides, as you know very well, decided, both sides, first American and then European side, decided to pause on our, Europe decided to pause on retaliatory measures to the ones taken by US earlier in April, but we took a pause to negotiate, and we are negotiating. And I think anything, I'm sure we'll get a good deal. I see this, trying to be careful not to make, as another step in our negotiations that in the end, I truly hope will result in a good agreement, good that is balanced and fair for both sides. How about that?
I can just, support Minister very much. As we understand, negotiations are going on. Tactic in negotiations can be different. We are behaving in one way. Our partners maybe, they're choosing some different tactics. Really sensitive topic. I would not like to go too much into details because this is not my portfolio, but I learned one lesson since especially recent period of time, that old, not so old now, but British traditional, saying, keep calm and carry on. It's really a very practical suggestion to all of us.
Very good. Absolutely.
Angie?
Angela Scugins from TVP World. A question for you, Minister. Trump, in the Post today, said the talks are failing with the EU regarding the tariff dialogue. Are you satisfied with the tone that's been taken by the EU? And the EU Trade Commissioner, Maroš Šefčovič, is speaking right now with his counterpart in Washington. What do you want him to say on behalf of Poland, as Poland will be significantly impacted by these tariffs? Thank you.
Commissioner Šefčovič is representing all of Europe. This is where, in trade, this is where we are very strong because we have one voice, and we continue, as we clearly have seen in last week's council, we continue to be united. And we continue to be united by a very clear strategy that we discussed from this stage with Commissioner Šefčovič just last week. So, and that strategy is to negotiate, get a good deal, at the same time prepare balancing measures if necessary, look for other markets, and also something that we actually discussed very much yesterday in the Competitiveness Council, focus on finalizing the internal market. This all comes very closely together. So I very much hope that, and I'm sure that Maroš will continue this line in his conversations. This is yet another chapter of a pretty dynamic. Now it's maybe pretty dynamic weeks, especially since April 2nd. I would say also that Polish presidency continues to stand ready to bring our decision makers together at any level of ambassadors, which I'm sure will happen quickly, level of ministers of trade, and of course the European Council can decide on their side, on their own, because the conversations that we are having with Commission and among the Council members leads to clear unity. And despite pretty dynamic, some would even describe it a bit of a roller coaster conversations with the U.S. side of the previous weeks, we stay united, and that's the message, and that's the backing that the Council gives to our main negotiator, who happens to be Commissioner Šefčovič.